Okay, so this story takes place. I'm going to CSU college in Fort Collins, Colorado, and my parents they still live in Grand Junction, Colorado. To get from Grand Junction, Colorado to Fort Collins, Colorado, you have to drive over the Rocky Mountains. I-70, over Vail Pass, the whole thing. I looked it up yesterday. It's technically considered the 8th most treacherous stretch of road in the whole country, going off per deaths, per 100 miles, per year. And since it's at the top of a mountain, when you're going over those passes, almost 11,000 feet of altitude, when there's a blizzard, I would say it's even higher on that list. And so the weather, I'm at my parents' house for a week for the holidays, and the weather in the mountains had just been horrible. Dumping snow, high winds, just brutal. And so I'm looking, I got to get back to get to work. I have a job. I had lived in Fort Collins for a while, so I have a life and my job. And I had to get back to my job and the whole thing. And so we're looking, what's the best window to shoot through and get back? And it had been like terrible weather for a week, and it looked like there was going to be a 12-hour window and then really terrible weather for another 4 or 5 days. So it's like, okay, I got to try to get back in that little window. My dad and I went and I was driving a 2005 Dodge Dakota 4-wheel drive pickup truck, but pickup trucks aren't all that great on the snow if there's nothing back in the bed of the truck because it's really light. So we went and bought 500 pounds worth of sandbags to put in the back right over the rear axle, and I got up early and headed out into the mountains. It couldn't have gone worse. Immediately, pretty much in Glenwood Canyon, there was a terrible accident, and I sat dead stopped on the highway for probably an hour, and then was going maybe like 2 or 3 miles an hour for another hour. So this window that I had to beat the bad weather is ticking away. And then it starts to snow. Then it starts to snow hard. Then it starts to snow really hard, and the wind picks up, and the visibility that day got down to 7 feet, which is nothing when you're driving on the highway. Looking out my windshield, or really any of the windows, it just looked like a blank white screen. So I'm on the highway. I can't remember exactly how fast I was going. It seems like I was going 5 miles an hour, but maybe it was a little bit more. But going very slow. It's just the white abyss in front of me. I can faintly see the headlights of the person in front of me who's also just kind of going slow, and we're just white knuckle stress driving through this blizzard. And the reason it's so stressful is because you don't know if you're going to get hit from behind from someone driving crazy. The road after just an hour or two was totally snow-packed, so you can't see the lines. I don't know if I'm in the lane. I can't see any exits or anything to turn off. I'm just slowly plugging along in the white abyss, following the headlights when I can faintly see them in front of me. But if those headlights go off the road into the median, into the ditch, I'd be following them right behind them. And then I'm getting to a point, I'm getting so tired and so stressed out with the whole thing. I almost want that to happen, just to get this over with. Just how long can I sit here and go 5 miles an hour in the blizzard? And then it starts to get dark, and it goes from the windshield looking like a blank white screen to looking like that submarine that imploded going down to the Titanic. It looked like looking out the window of that, just totally black with like the snow particles falling down. It's snowing about as hard as it can snow. I'm on the highway at 11,000 feet of altitude. There's hours and hours before I get to where I'm going. It's snowing so hard, I don't even know where exits are if I did want to try to take an exit. And it slowly, as it got dark, went from this sucks, God, this sucks, I hate that I had to put myself in this situation. It went from that to I really don't know what to do right now. I don't know what to do right now. Am I just going to plug along at 5 miles an hour all night long? Is the storm going to get better? I kept thinking to myself, just stay calm, keep going, keep getting through, and hopefully you get on the other side of the storm and it starts to get better. Just keep going. But it just kept getting worse. And I think the winds were up to 60 miles an hour. And it's just this little group of cars. I think the person in front of me was the first one, and then me, and then there was a few behind us. And it was just us slowly moving through the top of the mountain in a blizzard. And it's one of 3 times where I was driving where I was legitimately scared and just going, I don't know what to do right now. I really don't. And morale couldn't be lower. It's pitch black. I'm almost rooting to just end up in the ditch and just start figuring out that situation, because I've just been going so long driving. I've always had kept a wool blanket and like some warm socks and long underwear and some extra warm clothes in the back of my vehicle, and it had been back there for years. I'd seen that wool blanket with everything wrapped up in it for years, all the time, moving it out of the way, and all of a sudden, in the pitch black blizzard at the top of the Rocky Mountains, all of a sudden I go, I can't believe I'm probably gonna have to get that wool blanket out. How crazy is that? And I'm thinking back at Cub Scouts when I was a kid, like building snow caves, like, all right, if I end up on the side of the road, I can dig a snow cave, outdoor boys style, and probably not freeze to death. I got my wool blanket. Couldn't believe it was all of a sudden at that point. And I'm sitting there going, this is really bad. And then all of a sudden on my left, this massive truck with all of these lights honking its horn, bah, and it popped out of the abyss so just surprisingly. I screamed, I thought I was getting hit and killed by a semi-truck. And this truck goes over and it's honking its horn, and then it disappears. And then all of a sudden I see the brake lights of the car in front of me, and I slam on my brakes and come to a skidding stop. Then I'm looking in the rearview mirror, please don't get rear-ended from behind from the person trying to stop. They're able to stop. And so now we're dead stopped on the highway at the top of the Rocky Mountains in a blizzard. It's not a good idea to stop in the middle of the highway, especially when the roads are thick, are as icy and slick as they were. It's only a matter of time before someone coming up way too fast is going to kill you. And so now I'm sitting there, dead stopped. I can't see the massive truck anymore. All I can see is the faint brake lights in front of me, and I'm just sitting there. And then all of a sudden, this guy emerges out of the abyss. He's got this big coat on and a flashlight, and I roll down my window, and he's all business. He's from the sheriff, and he goes, you're gonna follow this car in front of me, they're gonna follow me, we're gonna take an exit in less than a minute or two to the right, and we're gonna put you guys into a hotel. And I go, yeah, oh, great. And he goes, I'm gonna tell the few cars that are behind you, and then we gotta go. And he's all business, because think about this guy is out standing on the highway in a blizzard, no visibility, totally slick roads, definitely putting his life on the line for us. And the big truck was the blizzard rescue vehicle. In the high country, the sheriff's department, they have these blizzard rescue vehicles. 6-wheel drive, huge, capable of handling anything. And so he gets in front then. He tells everybody real quick, risking his life, gets back in. Because most of the time, those blizzard rescue vehicles they have spaces to carry people in there that have driven off the road. You're stuck in a snowbank, and then you can get in that truck and they'll drive you to safety. But with this situation, there was like 12 or 15 cars still on the road. We hadn't gone off into the ditch yet. And so I think they were in kind of a hard situation of like, well, this is not ideal to try to like have all these cars follow each other. It'd be easier just to say, get in the big truck, let's go. But they made it happen, and we slowly followed him, and he knew where the exit was. It was just looking at black nothingness as we drove. I could just faintly see the lights. We take the exit. They put us up in a hotel. I was just so glad not to be stressed out. I was so glad to be safe, and I got like settled in the motel, then bundled up and went out and just sat on the tailgate of my truck, just at the, up way up in the mountains with it snowing like crazy. And I get the feeling, the same feeling when I'm up in the mountains or when I'm in the ocean, that, or even just in the woods, deep, deep in the woods, I get this feeling that my death, the mountains and the ocean, does not consider my death to be a negative. It barely is even neutral. It's almost a positive, because you got to have something to die. So to start the decomposition, and that's food for other things, and it's almost a positive. But it really hits me when I'm out deep in the mountains like that, or out on the ocean, that if storm can come and you can be begging, please let me live, please stop snowing so hard, please let the waves die down, come on, please, I want to live, I got so much to live for. And the ocean and the mountains, if they had a face and you were asking them, please let me live, your please would be met with the cold black eyes of a lizard.